On behalf of the Film Society of Lincoln Center, I'm delighted to greet you and to present to you a man who, as you know, the great director, Mr. Alfred Hitchcock, is being honored by...
Well, I think it's very gratifying, naturally. And I shall do my best. On film, of course.
As you know, the program is going to consist of segments from many of Mr. Hitchcock's memorable films. And various segments are going to be presented by some of the stars Mr. Hitchcock has directed in his films.
No, Mr. Siegel's organization and staff selected the various segments because they had to go right back to London to pick up a lot of the earlier pieces of film.
Mr. Hitchcock, what are your own favorite films that you have made, and you tell us why you do have favorites too?
Well, I've always said for a long time one of my most favorite films was a picture I made in '42 called Shadow of a Doubt. It was written in conjunction with Thornton Wilder, and I think it was a melodrama of character. You know, very often when you make pictures that are full of action, movement, or say a picture like North by Northwest, there isn't much time to develop character. But this particular film was able to combine all these elements in one.
You've been famous as a man who was able to build a great deal of suspense in your films. One of the most controversial and successful films today is The Exorcist, which has a good deal of shock in it. What do you think of that type of film as opposed to the type of films which you wrote?
Well, you see, first of all, I haven't seen that particular film, but statement. In other words, if you, to simplify suspense, I've often quoted this before, as to imagine a bomb going off and shocking everyone in this room and killing a few on the side. There the audience get a 15-second shock after a 5-minute conversation. Now, if you tell the audience 5 minutes ahead of time that a bomb is going to go off without the knowledge of the characters involved, now you have the audience wanting to tell them to get out of there because they'll be blown to bits, because that in that way the audience knows something that the characters do not know. So there's a tremendous difference between the two elements.
Do you think the trend...
Story pictorially, or it's telling a story, shall we say, visually, but still with dialogue.
Television is so strong, with its own style of movies. What do you think is the future of the film?
Conventional film used to be a hero who looked like Ronald Colman, and the heroine was a blonde. Now, of course, it's everything's reversed, which is as it should be, because when you meet a man, you don't know whether he's a heavy, a villain, or whether he's the hero. So I think the general trend must be in that direction, the direction of character.
What do you count for the popularity of films on detectives and policemen and violence and so forth? And you think there's going to be a backlash, a trend away from that? And in what direction will we go? all.
Well, I think that the trend towards police films seems to indicate to me that a lot of people feel very guilty. And when they see something happening to someone else, there but for the grace of God go I. It's just the same psychology as when people stop to see an accident in the street. But if they're asked to say something about it to a policeman, they immediately hurry away. They don't want to get involved. So therefore, many a police film or a crime film is something that an audience can look at from the comfort of a chair, and they don't have to get involved in it. Not necessarily, because you see, after all, shooting the shower scene in Frenzy is an illusion.
You made a film that dealt with the Cuban Missile Crisis, but we already knew the end of the story by the time you made that film. Does the Watergate situation have any potential for films?
I wouldn't think so myself. I think it's had its, the story has been told already.
Hitchcock, how did you shoot the scene in Frenzy where the camera goes downstairs as far back as the
That was done, I've done the same thing before in a film years ago called Notorious with Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant. It's a suspended camera on rails, and it comes down on rails. It's counterweighted, you see, so the camera comes down, but it's on a turntable as well, so you can turn the whole thing around. Therefore, the camera follows the two people up the stairs, pans them into the room where you know the man is going to murder the girl, and he takes her into the room, and then you say to the audience, well, you know what's going to happen. There's no point in our staying around. So the camera now turns and retreats and goes down the rails, and it goes down the stairs, and there's a fan light over the stairs which isn't there as the camera goes by, and is slid into position suddenly. Now it looks as though you've gone through the fan light. Now it goes down the corridor into the street. Now all this is done in the studio. At that moment, a man went by carrying a sack on his shoulder. Now we went to the real exterior and repeated the last part with the same man going by with a sack on his shoulder, and that's where the cut came, right on the frame. Then the camera retreated into the street until it showed the whole facade of the building, and you knew a murder was going to take place inside that building. But at that moment, I brought the roar of the traffic up 3 times volume, so that the audience subconsciously would say, well, she's going to scream, but nobody will ever hear it.
How did you feel about the critical?
Your next film,
Wrong. No, there's not much I can. It's one style, it's expected of one. After all, if you ask a novelist who writes serious novels why he doesn't write comedy stories, his answer is obvious. That's his style. Somebody once said that self-plagiarism is style.